Hi, everybody. It's Alex Jarett with Technology Executives Club. I'm here with Tim Walter. Hi, Tim.
Good morning, Alex. How are you today?
It's great to see you. And Tim is the CIO at Edward Don and Company. And today's topic is lessons learned from a successful AI project. Be sure and watch all of our videos at technologyexecutivesclub.com. So, Tim, it's great to see you. And for everybody who's new to you, you're CIO at Edward Don and Company, North America's largest provider of restaurant supplies.
North America, Canada, and we're starting to expand beyond there.
That's great. You were at our summit, and you've also now recorded a presentation on a successful AI project where you identified that you could get a big ROI out of increasing the throughput on your RFP process. And you used AI to do that. And it was right out of the chute, extremely successful and growing, correct?
Yeah, definitely a great project for us to put our foot in the water of the AI world. And we're really excited that we were able to make it across the line and we're continuing to improve it today.
And what was great is that your AI project not only succeeded in a big way, it also solved a lot of other problems for you in the process. For example, helping you with the tribal knowledge issue that everybody knows we have. And it's a big success. And that was just the first project. And now you have another project that you're working on. So, what we're going to do in this video today is you're going to share your framework or your key lessons learned. What's the first main lesson that you want everybody to start with?
The first lesson, Alex, is you have to begin with the business problem first. We do this in all our projects. Everybody focuses on saying, what are our pain points? And you have to begin there. So when we started this, we said, what is it we're trying to solve? And again, this is very basics. It's getting back to the basics. There is a lot of pressure coming from the board, leadership, everybody saying, hey, we need AI, we need AI. But it's just one of the things that it is going to be here, I feel, for a long time. But when you start looking at what are our pains, how do we improve what we're trying to do, you have to begin with the problem. From there, just like any other project, you say, okay, these are the things we're trying to do. What is our end game? How do we get to that end game? Then you work backwards a little and say, okay, now there may be, and I'm going to say
Yeah.
maybe because there's no guarantee,
Yeah.
there could be an AI solution. AI has been around for a long time. We've all
Yeah.
been using it in different ways, RPA, machine learning, conversational. It's just to a point where it really has made it into the mainstream. Now there's the opportunity to say, okay, yes, this can be solved using some AI technology, but it's still a business process. It's a flow. We still have to begin with the business needs as we start down the journey.
I think that's so important. I'm really glad that you started with that because I know just from our community, a year and a half ago, I said, hey, we got to start talking about AI more. And a lot of the CIOs in our group were saying, no, it's not as important. Fast forward a year later, they're all saying to me, the pressure is on the CEOs, the board, everybody thinks that they know about AI, right?
Right. Everybody's seeing it in the news.
Yeah, they're seeing it, they're using it. It's the consumerization of technology. We saw this in the cell phone. We saw this with the internet, where they're all using it and they think it's straightforward and they want to use it. Now, the challenge for the technology leader is the pressure's on. And once you take that project, if you don't do it right, who's responsible?
There is a target on your back right now if you're a technology leader saying, how are you making AI be effective? Of course, we all want to look at AI and say, yes, I want to play with the newest toys. I want to be able to solve a problem using some of the newer, and let's call it fun, exciting technologies.
Yes,
And
sure.
we can all learn from it. The challenge we had was we didn't want to just throw money at a problem. A lot of people, and you've just said it recently, threw money at things and projects weren't getting their ROI. We looked at it as saying, again, what is our core problem? Then how does technology help solve that? And that's where AI stepped up and was able to be that solution.
I think that was a great strategy. I had someone else recently give us a presentation. They talked about finding the friction points on your key processes. And that's literally what you did. You knew you had a key process called the RFPs. What was the throughput before and after the project?
Yeah, we responded to only about 5% of the RFPs pre-project, only about 5%, which really limited our ability to be competitive. We actually had to turn customers away. I'll give some statistics. It would take us 5 to 6 weeks of manual processing to respond to a 1,600 line RFP. Very difficult, not easy. We didn't have a big staff. We're trying to be lean and mean. This is
Yeah.
where AI really can step in and help with some of those automations. So we would reply to 5% of the RFPs. Now, good news is we'd usually win most of what we applied to. What if you could reply to 10, 15, 20% of those RFPs?
Right.
That then really gives us that next step of, wow, we actually can turn around things to our customer. And what's our ultimate goal? To engage our customer and solve their problems.
Right.
Just like internally to IT, we want to solve our internal customer problems. We also want to help our external customers. So we've been able to double, triple, quadruple, depending on the size of the RFP, our response. Using the tool, we're able to take that 1,600 line RFP that took us 5 to 6 weeks
Yeah.
and get an answer with an 86% accuracy in 20 minutes. Now we're focusing resources on exceptions, not the work. We're using AI to actually say, you do the repetitive, the difficult, the very, what is it, that research,
Yeah.
and let our people say, well, now I'm going to put my knowledge of the customer behind it. Instead of programming that knowledge, I actually have our people saying, okay, nope, you chose option one. It should have been option two.
Yeah.
This gets us into our third learning, which we'll get to in a minute, about
Yeah.
teaching the system. But it really shows a big change. And our goal is to grow 20 to 30 million in the first year. We're a little behind, but not off track. We're really making some great progress.
So let's summarize. You solve the business problems first. And I've heard it explained as it could be something that was going to give you a higher revenue or something was going to significantly decrease your expenses. And the third one I've heard is better customer experience. And you
Yes,
increase the revenue. And we had customers that were asking for RFPs, you couldn't even get to them.
we
Now
couldn't
you
even
have
get to them yet.
now you have significantly better customer service because a lot of this, I'm sure, is repeat business, and you just got to get to them, right?
Right. And think about that. That actually grows your market share because you're able to respond. And your second point, we're saying, well, you're trying to manage expense. We could have thrown bodies at this and that would have blown the expense away. So are we still managing expenses? We're managing the expenses by giving that higher quality service without having to add a lot of resources.
So I think the advice then, when someone's looking at their business issues first, we're not talking about innovation yet necessarily, right?
Right.
The
Automation. Look at the processes. We all know our processes. Our team
yes,
members, our people know their processes. Where do they feel that they're doing repetitive tasks? That's what the Industrial Revolution did for us. It brought automation to manual, repetitive tasks. We're just taking that to the next level using the technology. And the technology also can do a lot of the research. Our uniqueness is we're doing product comparisons. Well, there's a lot of information comparing one type of glass to another type of glass, how tall, how wide, what's the rim, what's the material. Let the technology scan that really quickly instead of having to have the human being. But our tool did do more, and we'll get to that in a little bit.
so that was great because I think you really helped people say, hey, how do I choose? It doesn't have to be innovation at first. You said it's a walk before you run, but let's make sure that you pick these projects that you have a really good chance of success with. And you gave some great tips on how to do that. What's your next lesson that you want to share?
Yeah, our next lesson was really set expectations. And we always talk about setting expectations, but the AI buzz has made it so much more that it is going to be the panacea. It's going to solve all our problems. What's the old saying? It's going to solve nuclear fusion. We had to make sure that we set an expectation of what we could deliver on, just like you would with any other project. But AI can only take us so far because we have to learn. This is our first step into the AI world. You didn't want to set too high a bar because you didn't want to say, oh my gosh, this is going to do everything and miss the mark. What we wanted to do was actually be realistic. We had to clearly define the outcomes that we were going for. AI would do this, but we still might have to have people doing this. So you
Mhm.
have AI focusing on one part, make sure that we got that, and then we would focus maybe people to focus deeper on another part. And we'll talk a little about that. As we got into the project, we wanted to make sure that the AI was focusing on the parts that slowed the team down and that the team could focus on the parts that give value add. We really need more people focusing on this part of the project versus
Oh,
that part or this part of the process, and make sure we also got the executive buy-in on the expectations. If we didn't focus and align everybody, there was going to be this expectation that the system will do everything and we don't have to do anything. Well, you need the team engaged. The team can't just say, well, AI is going to solve it. Why do I need to work on this project? Why do I need to be in the testing? Why do I need to be there? Just like any other project, we need that alignment, engagement, and we need the executives to be there championing the project for us. I think this was even more so than any other project because everybody thought AI was the answer and there was nothing to do. You had to set realistic expectations.
this is such a great insight. And when I really listen to you, I hear what you're saying. We're getting ready for this. What was that comment you made about everybody's thoughts about AI?
It's going to solve world hunger and you didn't have to do anything.
Exactly. That's what you said. Yeah. And really, there is this hype about AI. It is an amazing, let's be real, it is an amazing technology and it is
Right.
incredible. But I think people are coming into this with different points of view. And I think you correctly identified for that project that this is the area that AI is going to help us with, but it's part of a team. It's part of a team. And this is what the humans are going to do. And we need you in this because you're the ones that have discernment and you also have the knowledge of at the end, you have to make those decisions as to whether this is the right glass or
Right.
tumbler.
This the right, they're
Yeah.
going to do the quality check, which leads into our next topic, which is about change management, which is going to be really important to make sure we understand what part of the project we need that engagement from.
Yeah. Let's get into change management. I hear you on that because what I have heard that change management is fundamental to these projects because what I am seeing is initially, before we talk about agentic AI and all the other things people are
Yeah.
talking about, for the early successes, using AI as a team member on these processes, they are going to give you ROI if it's successful. That's the secret. But
Right.
what I've heard from you and from other leaders is the key to success is not the AI, it's the change management.
Right. And communications, and we always say this in change management, is key. But one of the first things that people do, and when people resist change, is they feel like they're going to lose something.
Yes.
What we needed to focus on is what were they going to gain? Where were we going to have them focus their energies into higher valued processes and enablement? So instead of saying, okay, well, we're going to bring this AI in and this AI is going to do your job, what we talked about was, team, you're going to have more time to focus on validating what the customer needs. And then we talked about we're going to take away the repetitive tasks. This got that engagement and that buy-in from the team members, which is difficult with change management, because instead of focusing on, well, we're outsourcing or we're replacing you with
Yeah.
that AI tool, what we're saying is we're realigning your activities to more thought-provoking and engaging activities that have a greater value. That was really a key
I
point.
think what you just said is huge. The big fear that is out there right now is AI is going to replace everybody,
Right.
which is very emotional. It's very triggering. And you address that head on. If growth occurs, you're going to have more jobs for everybody, not less jobs for everybody.
Right. And more activities. As I mentioned, the AI was 86% correct on our first runs.
Yes.
That 14% needs the interaction of our team. The team, we rather you focus on that 14% and actually checking the AI. You can't just walk into AI and say, hey, I'm going to blindly believe the AI was perfect out of the gate. We need you quality checking the AI. Let the AI do the repetitive tasks, those difficult or those time consuming, low value activities. And we had our team actually raising the bar on them. We wanted the team actually using their brains, focusing on the greater challenges, the things that they actually bring to the table that the AI isn't even ready to do yet.
Yeah. You co-created the success environment with these people, which I think was fundamental. You wouldn't have had the success, you wouldn't have had the buy-in. I think you also told me in the case management that even when you started, people were saying, "Why isn't this thing 100%?" Right? You had to
Right.
keep reinforcing this, right?
We had to keep reinforcing it. And that gets into our next and one of our most important topics, which is reinforcement learning from the people. So we'll talk about that next.
Okay, I've heard from many executives that a corollary issue that a lot of the business processes that actually make companies successful are in the employees' heads, especially someone who's been around. It's not the young employees that can easily use AI. It's the people that have been around for a long time that are probably nearing the end of their career, and it's in their heads. They know how the system really works. And
Yes.
this core issue of primal knowledge is fundamental to what AI can help companies with, correct?
Correct. Yeah. One of our longtime employees here
Yeah.
keeps a spreadsheet of secret knowledge he has that customer A wants you to buy this, while customer B wants you to buy that. And it's difficult because we have to get him to share that information through an Excel spreadsheet to the rest of our sales team. And he has over 350 people that he's trying to maintain Excel spreadsheets for.
Oh my goodness.
So,
God bless this gentleman.
yeah, so that tribal knowledge is vital. So when we went into this, people always say AI projects live or die on the quality of your data. We went into this saying we know our data isn't perfect. We know that the system is not going to be 100% out of the gate. We need also not to require training of the system every day through an IT person. There's a lot of business rules and business knowledge. So we went into the focus of saying we need to be able to train the system, and it's
Yeah.
called reinforcement learning from humans. Our system is designed to learn from the interactions of the team. The team will be consistently and constantly retrain the AI. So it's not like a new release. Well, we trained the AI
Yeah.
and we ran a nightly process and it's updated. Every interaction of the tool will learn and get that tribal knowledge from our team members.
That's brilliant. You solved a couple issues here. You accelerated the pace of responding to RFPs. You getting rid of these extremely repetitive tasks, which nobody likes to do.
Nobody likes.
So you're going to make the job more interesting. And you're also, over time, teaching the system the tribal knowledge, which you need anyway. So at some point, that gentleman's going to retire, and you can't have it on a spreadsheet that's on his computer that nobody looks at for another year because they don't know it's there.
Right. Think about the way we approach this from learning from the humans is future proofing our processes by sharing knowledge. We're not saying taking the knowledge, we call it sharing because now the tool shares that information on every interaction that our team has with it. So every time a new person does an RFP, they're going to learn something new. Oh, I didn't know customer A had that answer. Oh, look, and the tool does a statistical comparison and says, we found that this is a match, but for this customer, 90% of the customer stores or restaurants want to buy this. Oh, well, then for this customer, let me make sure I got this right. So they're constantly learning from each other, improving and future proofing our company for the ability to continually give our customers what they're looking for.
That's just brilliant. And so, really, you've given people some great advice here. This loop, change management, tribal knowledge, they really go hand in hand, right? The loop, it's not a one and done, it's a constant thing. All right. Well, you also mentioned in that topic data. And let's talk about what's your main lesson on data. I love this lesson because I think it's going to help people a lot. Go ahead.
Yeah, our main lesson we learned is we can't go into this trying to be perfect with our data. Everybody
Yeah.
says your data has to be 100% perfect. Well, you're never going to reach it. We're not going to
Right.
be able to clean our data in a timely fashion and get to market. One of the reasons we looked at this project was we
Yes.
needed to get to the market quickly. We partnered with a company, we brought in tools. We didn't try to build this from scratch all the way at the
Yep.
bottom. There are some uniqueness. But if you go in saying we have to be perfect, you'll never be perfect. We went in with the lesson knowing we were going to be, what's the old saying, 80-20 rule. We're
Yeah.
going to be 80% correct. We're going to have 20% we're going to learn. And on every project, we learn something new. And that learning guides us for either the next phase, because no system is ever done. You put it on the shelf and you never touch it again. You're always going to be improving it. But then it helped us as we moved into our next projects. Our
Yes.
next one saying, okay, what did we learn? Well, we learned the data isn't going to be 100%. How do you plan for that? How do you build? And I think AI is the greatest tool for this, an adaptive system to know your data is not going to be perfect so that you have now our staff who are more engaged. They're actually, as you said it, they're learning and they're being able to be challenged. They're being challenged to say, I'm going to do the harder work. The harder work is making sure that I'm checking for the customer. I'm making sure I'm the
That's it.
quality check person. And we learned from that. And so you can't go in and that, again, that reinforcement and being able to say to people, you have a more important role now. Your role is actually to be that customer's eyes, the customer liaison. You are the customer's representative to make the system better. And we learned from that.
You touched on a lot of issues there, but the whole thing about data, everybody's talking about data readiness, and they're absolutely correct. But in large corporations like Don, we all remember the heyday of the big data projects a dozen years ago,
Right.
right? Data lakes, data oceans, all these different things. Silos, those are still issues. They're still there. And how many people have funded these huge data projects and it's like they're never ending? We all want a source of truth. What's the one truth, right? But
Right.
what you did here is you said, let's focus on this one process, right? And we know we're going to get the ROI. Those other topics that people get hung up on are bigger issues for a later day. This was a project that was designed to get results right away versus an investment in maybe fixing these data silos. That's a different issue.
Right.
And I think for this project, the concept of data doesn't need to be perfect was 100% because we know it's not going to be perfect anyways.
Well, the tribal knowledge. You and I
Yeah.
talked about it. Knowledge is in the gray matter of our team. We wanted this project to work with the team, partner with to share that knowledge into the system so that we could share it out. So if we waited until we were able to document each and everything that everybody knew, they would have already moved on and learned
You
something
would have
new, and then
spent,
we'd be chasing data for the rest of our lives.
yeah,
The
you'd
goal
be.
was to build a system to be flexible.
So there was really two issues. One was the issue that you talked about was the data was in people's heads and you really needed to get it out for this to succeed. And you did that. You're doing that through the interaction,
It's
right?
going to be continuous. We are not holding back. We got to market in 3 months into pilot.
That's unbelievable. The second issue is the fact that you are working with an LLM
Yes.
and you do know that it can hallucinate.
They can go off in an alternate direction. And our hope is that human interaction brings the system back naturally, organically. Now, of course, we're going to watch it. We're not going to just let
Yeah.
it live on its own. But the idea is if we have hundreds of interactions a day from somebody who's actually training the system, those forks in the road should be
Yep.
minimized. They shouldn't go down the wrong path because then a person should be saying, no, that's wrong. Bring it back. We're always going to be in this small area of where the people, the team are always going to be quality checking.
Such a huge point. So that gentleman has a spreadsheet. He really can do the same role he's been doing, but now he's
Right.
doing it with the AI.
Well, think
He's
about
getting,
how he's learning from other people too.
yes.
Everybody benefits from this because everybody is sharing in real time. And it isn't, oh, we got to go meet on Friday to have a training class. Right. And in the end, what is this about? This is about going back to what was our problem. Our problem was we were only
Yeah.
responding to 5%. This now has really engaged our customers more. They feel that we're listening to them. We're able to respond to them more. They feel that they're getting what they need from Edward Don quicker, faster, and hopefully in the end, they choose us to be their provider of choice.
Tim, this has been wonderful. Thank you for sharing the original case study for everybody. And also, let's do a quick review of the steps. Walk us through the main steps, and then we'll close it out. We'll summarize and close it out.
Yeah, not a problem. As I said earlier, Alex, we need to begin with the business issues first. Like any other project, don't begin with saying, hey, I have AI and I need to find a problem. Have your problem and then say, is AI the right choice? Set those realistic expectations. There's a lot of stress, there's a lot of pressure saying AI, but set the expectations on what you really think you can accomplish with AI today. Then look at change management. The change management is going to be really important. Communications, making sure that people understand what they're going to gain, not about what they're going to lose. Look at how can I have that human reinforcement learning, the system learning from the interactions. The system has to be adaptive, always learning. And the data really doesn't have to be perfect. If you have a system that can adapt, change, and learn from interaction, your data will flow. Of course, you have to have good data, but you don't have to have perfect data. You're going to have those hiccups. In conclusion, look at, say, how is this going to start? Always going to get us better. We're going to learn from our hiccups. We're going to learn that maybe we weren't perfect in this. And how do we take that and grow continuously and help our customers in the end?
That's a great summary. And Tim, thank you so much for doing this leadership briefing for everybody. I think you've given some sound, proven advice on how to be successful on your AI project.
Well, thank you, Alex. I'm really glad to be able to share with everybody, and everybody good luck.